Well, welcome back to Hillbilly Shipwright. We've been building the boats that are in this kit right here. This is the Become a Shipwright of Old kit from Model Shipways, which you can get from modelexpo-online.com. And I do like these boats. This right here is the one that we're working on. I had to look to make sure I was pointing at the right one. And this is the Pram. So that's the second in the series. We did the dory in the first part of the series. So we're doing the Norwegian Sailing Pram. And we had finished up through part 39, which was taking care of the hinges for the rudder. And we also did the stay plates for the rigging for our mast. So now that we've got the rudder done and everything, I'm going to skip ahead to 48. And let's jump down to the bench and take a look at step 48. So here we are at 48. As you can see, it's quite a few pages between where we finished up on 39, because step 40 is the display stand. And I think before we start doing the display stand, I want to go ahead and do the oarlocks here. And these consist of the plates and the twin horn locks themselves. So the removes are photo etched, and we kind of got a glimpse at those in the last video, so we'll go ahead and take a look at them here in a second. But first of all, I want to talk about these nails. Let me see if I can get these out. So these are the nails that I stole out of my other kit, which I haven't finished. 5 years in the making. I'll get it, I promise. and these are the ones that came with the kit. So let me grab a ruler real quick. So probably let's go here. There we go. So this is what comes in the kit. As you can see, the heads are not very well formed. It's like it was a two-part mold that they did these in. And they don't set flush, and you've got to you have to do a whole lot of work on these to actually make them work. Sort of like my speech right now. It's a little difficult for me. So these are the ones that I took out of the Mayflower kit that I have. And when you try to order these, what you need to look at is there's two dimensions here. One is 12 millimeters in length. And then if we look at the heads of them, if I can get this to where you can see it, they should be it looks like 1.5. So it's about 1.5 millimeters for the head. And these work great. These are going to look really nice on our pram. The other ones, we had to do so much work to them. They're just really not worth the time. And I went everywhere looking for nails to use in town. I went to every hardware store, every craft store, every home improvement store, and a nail like this is not there. So you need to order these online. So it's a 12 millimeter with a 1.5 millimeter head, and that'll get you where you need to go. With that being said, we're going to remove the plates from the photo etch, which they kind of are. Check that the stems of the oarlocks can pass through them. A smear of cyanoacrylate or CA glue we'll position them on the oarlock pads after the glue sets, drill through with the number 71 bit. We're not going to use the number 71 bit because it's too large for the nails that we're using. And then let's see, and pin them to the pads. Again, the bolt shafts may need shortening to prevent them breaking through. Clean up the oarlocks if needed and insert them into the oarlock sockets. And that's all it says, because then they go on to the sails, and we are so far away from needing sails at this point. But I thought it would be better to take care of these oarlocks before we mount it to the stand. And here in this picture you can see that brass plate that's up underneath this oar here. And it has two nails, one on either side, and then the oarlocks go down into the plate. So let's take a look at that stuff. So here we have our oarlock plates, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Now we're not going to worry about the last two, that goes on the mast. So we're going to set that aside. And then we have our oarlocks. I almost said warlocks again. Or maybe I did, I don't know. I'm going to pull these out because we are going to put these on the boat after we clean them up, of course. So the way this works, of course, these go on to the oarlock pads, and then the oarlocks themselves have to fit through that center hole, and they do. That's not a problem there. So the next thing we need to look at is, do these fit into the oarlock pads that we've all got attached to the boat? I'm going to go ahead and take our rudder off. We don't need that in the way. So here are our oarlock pads and our oarlocks with the pre-drilled hole that we did earlier during the build. And so that fits. So we shouldn't have any issues here. So, ooh, knock on wood. Okay. With that out of the way, I'm going to use a piece of glass here. I must put these over here on the corner of our mat. And we need to free these up. And for that, I'm going to use this blade. I think the light is in a bad spot. Let me see if I can minimize the damage somehow. Oh, okay, we're gonna have to live with it, I guess. If I put my hands over top of it, maybe you won't see it. So we do have these little connection points here. Now this has already been annealed. We did that in the last video. Get rid of that. Using a curved blade on a piece of glass really helps. To separate these. And get these clipped off here. Kind of looking at it from a funny angle. I'm not sure where my blade is. As long as it's not on my finger, I'm doing good. So there's one cut loose. I'm going to go ahead and cut these others loose that we're going to be using, and then we'll clean them up. So I've put them in a little cup here so we don't lose them. They are very small, and there are no extras. So you need to really be careful about where you put these and how you take care of them. So I'm just using a file here to take care of those fret connections that kept it all in the fret there. As you can see, I'm filing it with the length, not against it, because I don't want to bend these little bitty parts up. So there's one cleaned up. So, and it goes pretty quick, so I'll go ahead and do the other 4 real quick. All right, so I'm going to do my best to try to stay center of our video feed here, our camera. So here we have all of our pads. Now, it's a good idea to put them in something that you're not going to lose them, okay? it's a good idea. Need to move our boat over. So you and I are going to be looking at this. I've got you zoomed out, so I do apologize if you can't see what I'm doing because my hand gets in the way, but it's really kind of important that we get these in place correctly. So as a guide, we're going to be using the little hole in the middle of our pad there. So now all I got to do is get these up out of here with the tweezers. And I got a funny feeling my hand's going to get in the way. I've got to drop this right over top of the hole there. Like so. If it's not right, it's not right. And it's not right. What do you do if it's not right? Well, we're going to come up underneath it here. Pull it back off. Oh, that's not good. So obviously going to have to do some straightening. Oh no, that's bad. We're going to need some touch-up too. See that? I pulled the paint off. It's not good. Well, we're going to try it again. We can always come back in and touch up the paint. If you're going to have something go wrong, it'll always be when the camera's rolling. See there, guys? Things don't happen perfectly. Oh, that's much better. All right, well, I think we covered up all of our misgivings there. We got our pad straightened back out and put back on. So, all right, so that's one. Let's hope the others go better. I'm going to do those off camera so I don't misalign it again. Got just a little touch there. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't need to. So the whole point here is that our oarlock should fit in that hole and it should be in the middle. And it should look like that. Not a great big disaster, but it could have been worse. It could have been worse. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put the other 3 on while you're not watching. and then we'll move on. So all the rest of them went on, no problem, as long as you weren't watching. Don't be jinxing me. So they all look good and they all fit appropriately. And when we get our oarlocks in place, they look the part. But now we got to put our nails in. So we need to know how big a nail is so we can drill the holes for them. So it's 0.63, 0.64 millimeter. So the one I'm going to use is this 0.7. I don't know how close to 0.7 it truly is. All right, it's 0.65. That'll work, I think. Should be just enough resistance there for it to get a little bit of CA glue in the hole there and then hold it firmly. So I'm going to drill it out by hand. I'm not going to use a power tool. And these are really sharp bits, so you got to be careful. So I want to drill it just through the pad. So that ought to be good. Yeah, maybe I'll clean it out a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to drill this other hole real quick. Hopefully I'll be able to show you exactly what I'm doing here. So I got my wire cutters here and I've got my nail. Okay, I used to have a nail. There, there it is. I am having a hard time today. Okay. I can keep a hold of it there. I'm going to just place the head of the nail on the gunnel or on the top rail there. Oops. Went too far, I think. We're just going to slide it down. There's no sliding really. What I don't want is I don't want it to be longer than my hole is deep. Because that will be a problem. So right about there is where I need to cut the nail. We're going to use the old bag trick. Get the item into the, whoops, I turned it a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to snap it off inside the bag there. So hopefully everything has stayed right inside the bag. I can see it there. So I'm going to have to reach up in there and find it. So there's the nail. Place the bag over to the side. I think we still got some viable CA glue here. I may be making a mistake here. Normally I test fit these, but I think we're in really good shape. I'm just going to put the CA glue here. If I make a mistake, you'll be the first to know. Won't be my first mistake. Okay, it looks good. Now all I got to do is pick this up and get it in that hole and get it pressed home before it grabs. All right, that wasn't good. Where'd it go? lost it. Okay. Well, we'll cut another nail. It's laying here somewhere. It didn't hit the floor. I don't think it hit the floor. That would be the second one that I've lost so far. Pity. I'm starting to run out of nails. Here we go. Press it home. I glued my finger. All right, that's one in. Looks good. I've already drilled that other hole, so we might as well go ahead and do that too. Get me another nail here. Not unusual to lose things. I'm sure it's either up underneath the floorboards on the boat or so it's somewhere here. I may run into it yet before I finish with putting these in. Just want to make sure it's not too long. Okay, that's good. Back into the bag we go. Gonna fish it out carefully. Don't want to lose it. Somebody said, what was it they said? They said, boy, you must have a lot of patience. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't have patience. Maybe I'm just stubborn. I'm stubborn and I won't give up. How's that? All right, let's not lose this one. Using serrated tweezers. Now, most people, the big mistake that you make with tweezers is from gripping the part too tightly. Because if you do that, why does it want to go sideways? There we go. Pressed it home. Okay. So there we are. Nice. So I've only got 6 more to do. So I'll go ahead and do them off camera. So there we go. We got all of our nails in place. And I found the one that was missing. It was stuck right up underneath this half knee for our bow transom. The little bit of CA glue that got on the end of it made it stick up in there. So we were able to reuse that. So no lost parts. So we're in good shape. That's always good. So the boat building deities are on our side. I just hope I don't have to sacrifice a lamb or something there. I'm just kidding. It's just a joke. All right, so next up, we have our actual oarlocks. Not warlocks, but oarlocks. So we do need to clean these up, and I think a nice polished look would be nice. However, as you can see, it has a seam line on it there. So I'm wondering if I can sand that away. Just using a used flexible sanding stick here. May have to go with a little something else. Let me file it first. Probably a round file would work better. If I can find one here. Oops, sorry. Shaking the camera on you there. So we've got a lot of curved surfaces here, you know. And a curved surface is always hard to take care of. Now I'm not going to file the bolt section here because those little burrs that are on it from the seam will help it stick in place, I think. At least that's what I'm going with. I'm just checking to make sure I'm still in frame here. I've got a bad habit of working down low and not giving you guys a good look at what I'm doing. If we go crossways here, we can kind of get most of that out of it there. So that's looking good. So I need to go on the inside here. Clean that up. So this is made out of what they call white metal. It's also, I think it's also called Britannia metal. I don't know, I may be wrong there, but I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to tell me the error of my ways. It's really soft, it's really easy to file, and it's really easy to make mistakes, so you got to be careful there. Just want to clean it up. We're looking pretty good here. So this is one of 4, so I'm going to have to do this to all of them. And we'll hit that with the soft sanding stick now. Kind of round it over a little bit. If you're not careful, you'll bend these. And it's got a little piece of something on there. These are, I don't know how they mold these, but you got to wonder. So we can get them all polished up, and if we're careful, this should look pretty good. I don't want to change the contours of it. I just want to get rid of that seam and make everything nice and smooth. So that's looking pretty good. Now, what we're not going to do, we're not going to glue these into place. I think there's enough friction going into the holes. This side needs to be sanded some to make it look good. That's not too bad. That looks pretty good. So what does it look like on the boat? Get our boat over here. Put our oarlock into place. Like so. Nice. I like that. So I only have 3 more to do. So I'll go ahead and take care of that and get those into place. So I have the last oarlock sanded and polished up, and we're going to put that into place there. Nice. All right, so next up we have our model display stand. This is step 40. So it says before hanging the rudder and adding the dagger board, the stand needs to be made. A simple stand can be put together using the base pieces with 2 lengths of dowse which are supplied. For a more sophisticated appearance, you could substitute 1/4-inch acrylic rod. Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to use the kit parts. And this is what the stand looks like. And they do have measurements in here. We're going to have to cut 2 lengths of the 1/4-inch dowel. One is going to be 3 1/4 inch, and the other one's going to be 3 1/16 inch. And we're going to have to do some flats to accept the little support pieces that goes up here. So let's take a look at our parts. One is the base. Now, I've already separated it from the fret and sanded it. This is one of those things that you can do when you're doing your planking or anything else that you have to kind of wait on. You can prep other parts. So I've prepped this. And we are going to need some dowel rod. This is what comes in the kit. So we have, I'm sorry, I hit the camera there. We have 2 pieces. I think I'm going to save the lighter colored one for the mast if we end up using that. And I'll use this one for the stand. Now I plan on staining this anyway, so it shouldn't be a big problem there. And then we have our aft support and our fore support. That is on this fret. So I'm going to have to cut these out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out, and I need to sand all the char off of them before we start fitting them. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's what I've done. First of all, let's start where we ended up in the last segment there. I trued up all these edges, just like we've been doing throughout the video, you know, putting it on the square and using our block plane to square everything up. Not too worried about the top part of it here because we can kind of bevel that later to fit the actual bottom of the hull. So we have our 2 brackets done. I think it's brackets. Is that what it is? Just a second. Supports. Our 2 supports. All right, so we got that done. And then we have our 2 pieces of dowel. And we had to cut those. One is 3 1/4, which we got, and the other one is 3 1/16 of an inch long. So one is shorter than the other, and that's fine. The short one is for the stern, and our stern support has the little cutout in it there for our skag that's on the bottom of the boat. And then they give us a measurement on to draw a line around the dowel there for us to cut. We're going to cut 2 flats so that this will actually set inside the slot there. However, I think the way to do this, instead of using their measurements, I'm just going to use a pencil. I'm going to set my pencil right here on the corner, like so. If I can brace it here. This is where you need 12 fingers. Anyway, I get set with my fingers like so. Yeah, there we go. Almost had it. There we go. So now we have the actual mark at where we need to set those two little flats. So that's how I'm going to do mine. Yeah. So what I need to do now is I need to cut two flats. And I think I use a file for that. You do want to be careful. Maybe I should put some tape around it there. Be easier to see. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Don't know if it's a good idea, but I think it's a better idea. Oops. And again, I am... I need more fingers. So you can always make things deeper, but if you cut them too deep to begin with, you're gonna have a problem. There we go. There we are. So you can kind of choose your wood graining here, see what side you want to face out and all that. And then you can just cut a flat. You want to be careful when you do your flat to not cut too deep. So I can't really see where I'm at because of the light. So I could be messing up big time. So getting started is the hardest part. There we go. So we know where that is. Now I can set that flat right on the end of my block there. Am I out of frame again? Which kind of gives me an idea of where level is. Yeah, we're not doing too bad. See there? So you do it just a little bit. That way you can adjust. Since we don't have a machine to do this. We have to do it by hand. Now, there we go. That's right where it needs to be. As you can see, I did not remove very much at all. So, all I got to do now is make them deep enough so that it sets flat like it's supposed to. I'm just pushing in. Instead of down. To get that. I'm almost there. Almost there. So I can get rid of this tape. It's kind of in my way at the moment. Figure out which side I need to fix here. Oh, that's pretty obvious. This one needs to be fixed. So that's what we're going to do for this. I just need to fix this a little bit here. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the one that goes up towards the bow support. But it is important that we keep it square across the top, because if it's not square, our boat will be sitting kind of funny. Yeah, I need to trim that down some. All right, so we got the other one done. Just gotta make sure I glue it up in the middle. We'll put some glue on here. So you just got to be really careful, because you don't want to file away too much when you're doing these flats, because then it'll be loose, and we need it to make contact. That's good. Where's my paper towel? Always got to have a piece of paper towel around. Need to take off the excess. Now this yellow glue is really good at setting up. Sets up rather quickly. It starts to skim over pretty fast. So keep you some water and a brush nearby. Do your cleanup there. When you're using this yellow glue, don't think that you can glue something else up and then come back to it later. You need to clean it up right away. Since I am going to attempt a oil stain on this, I want to make sure that I've got as much excess glue cleaned up as possible so that the stain will take and not have any white spots or a splotchy outcome there. All right, so that one's glued up. So I need to let that dry. Need to make sure I got everything. There we go. There we go. So that one's glued. Just let that dry. And I'll go ahead and take care of the other one here. So just make sure that you put the front support on the longer dowel and the short one on, or the rear support on the short dowel. And it's very important that you cut this dowel square, because it needs to index across the top there in order to keep the piece from being canted. So it's probably the biggest takeaway there from doing these. So I'm going to let these dry before we can start putting them on the base. And I do have to figure out something here, because when we do the base, the holes are a little bit too big. I'd rather they've been too small than too big. So we have to see what we can do about that. Alrighty. We do have a little problem here when it comes to putting these risers on our stand here with our brackets. So what I'm going to do, I've got to make the hole smaller, obviously. So I'm going to put masking tape on the bottom, cover up the bottom of the holes, and we're going to have to shim it. That's what I'm going to do. I've thought about it, and I've decided that that's probably the best solution. Before we try to glue these up, what we're using is just plain old cardstock. And I've cut a couple of shims that'll go around inside the holes. Now, when it soaks up the wood glue, it's going to swell a little bit. It should fill the cavity. The glue will solidify and harden, and everything should be nice and tight. At least that's the idea. The only problem is when we go to insert these dowels, as you can see, we have a sharp edge there, and that's going to do nothing but catch our shim and kind of just push it all down into the bottom of the hole, which we've masked over. So we don't want that to happen. So we are going to have to put us a little bevel on it, and hopefully this will slide right down. I'm not worried about any space at the very bottom of the dowel. The glue will fill that. That's not an issue. The issue is we don't want to grab hold of the shim, the little bushing that we're putting in there. Okay, so see, I need a ruler real quick. Doesn't matter which one, just any ruler. I'm gonna go ahead and do both these while we're at it, so we don't get carried away and start adding glue and then find out that we haven't prepped all of our dowels. So I did try this to make sure that I can insert the dowel without damaging the paper, but that was a dry run, meaning, there's no glue on it. So that being the case, when we go to do this, we're going to be doing it kind of for real there. You can see I already did that for my dry run. This is on the scrap piece of dowel. Now, what I want to do first, let's see, we'll just start with the aft bracket. So we're sitting down on the tape there. I'm going to take my sliding ruler here. I'm going to slide it down into the lowest point on the bracket, which would be down into the bottom of that slot right there. That way I know when it's fully seated. Okay, that way if the little bushing that we're about to put in, if it grabs it and pushes it all on the bottom, then this is not going to seat fully. And I'll know I need to go ahead and take it out, clean the glue out, and try again. Because otherwise, if one works perfectly and the other one doesn't, then we're not going to have the correct height that we need for our boat to sit on. I know, complicated. But here at Hillbilly Shipwright, that's what we do. We do complicated, don't we? So I need some glue on the inside of the hole here. So we just need to put a film of glue all the way around. Something to hold the shim or bushing. So the masking tape on the bottom of the stand is all about keeping the glue from getting onto the mat and everything. That's gluing everything to stuff that we don't want to glue it to. We'd rather it not be glued to. So I should be able to get this in here without much trouble. There we go. So I need to push it down into the bottom, like so. Now what I'm going to do next there we go. By pushing the dowel in, we got the bushing to spread out. Now I just need to cement it up. Cement, glue. We're going to glue it up. All right. We should have plenty of contact there. There's a little bit of a bevel here from the laser cutting, which I haven't fooled with. I do want it to kind of bevel in towards the center of the boat, midships. Excuse me. Because we are going to shape it later. All right, so we're down. Take our ruler. Yeah. Confirm that we're down. So we're down. Now the next thing we need to do, you're going to need a square of some kind to check and make sure that things aren't leaning. Eyeballing it does not work if you have a crooked eye like like me. So I just want to make sure that it's straight. Now we also need to make sure that this part here, the support, is lined up with our ends, our edges there. I'm going to have to get that off camera to see if I need to tweak it a little bit. That looks good. So after I've tweaked it, I need to double check here and make sure that everything is square. So my square is too tall that way to tell. I can use since I got this large flat end, we can use it this way to see if we're square. Okay, so that worked pretty good. One thing I need to do right now is clean up a little bit of glue kind of sticking up here. I think I'll hit that with some water and a brush here. Yeah, okay. And my allergies are messing with me today. So I'm going to leave this for about 20 or 30 minutes. Come back and shim and install the our forward support. So I just don't want to be able to, I don't want to knock this around and get it out of alignment there. So we'll just leave it and let it set up. So I've given this plenty of time to dry. I've got the forward one end. I do hope everything works out. I'm sure it's going to be fine. We can pull this tape off now. Kind of see what we have. Well, that didn't work out bad at all. We didn't even get any curling of the paper underneath. The one thing that I will say is that when you cut your, if you're going to use paper as a shim like I did, just make sure whatever you cut is not quite as tall as the piece of wood it's going through. That way you can recess it and it's not sticking up and showing around your supports there. You don't want that. I mean, we're going to stain this anyway, but if it is white and it soaks up glue, then it's not going to take stain. So you kind of want to try to avoid that. So next up, we need to see about where this is going to sit. I can already tell, as you probably can, we need to widen the slots there so that our keel plank sits down in between right there. So let me find a file here. Got one somewhere. You can use a file or sandpaper. I'm using this one that has an edge that doesn't cut, where the opposite one's got the serrations there. This edge doesn't. So what we want to do is gently widen these. Little by little until our boat sits right down. Now you don't want to be doing this if the if your glue is not dry. That would cause an issue, obviously, with your alignment. So it's just a matter of widening these out just a little bit on each side at a time, and we'll keep checking the fit until we get a perfect fit there. Ways to go. I may have to even deepen that slot. I'm thinking, yeah, that slot needs to be a little bit deeper there for our skeg. So I'll go ahead and work on this, and we'll see how it turns out here after I get that deeper and get those a little bit wider. All right, so I had to do a little sanding on it and everything. You got to remember now when you're building the boat that sometimes things aren't exactly right. So in order to make everything contact correctly, you do have to make some adjustments. Also, you can probably see the angle here. There's a slight angle on these to fit the curvature of the hull. So that's good. So I have a couple of pieces of wood to elevate this stand so I can put some stain on it. Now this is the stain we're going to be using right here. This is semi-transparent classic gray. I used this on my last stand. I really like the look of it. And just make sure that it's mixed well. And we will get the top off of it here. This is Minwax and it is oil based. So if you use a brush, you're going to have to use mineral spirits or something like that to clean it. Magic. Put some gloves on. Alright, so I'm just using a cotton cloth here. It might be a little bit fuzzier than I would really want, but you can use a brush to do this, but I think I don't think we're quite mixed up. Doesn't seem to be. No, it's mixed. Huh. Different woods take things a little bit differently. We have to put 2 coats on. So it's just a wiping stain. Now since it's oil-based, we're going to have to let it dry for a while to make sure that everything is completely dry. I'm doing these posts first. Now if you have some spots where it's hard to get into, you may have to use maybe a cotton swab or something like that. A brush maybe to get in there. Trying to flip this thing around in my hand. That can be a little difficult there with just one hand. So after we get this on and it's dry, we'll come back in and put a clear coat on it. That satin clear coat from Model Expo. That'll seal the wood for us. Give us a nice little satin shine to it there. There's probably some real cabinet makers watching this and cringing. No, don't do that. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So this is basswood, so it does soak this up rather quickly. You can see what a nice gray tint we've got going on there. That's nice. Looks good. Yeah, I think it's going to look nice. Now, oils tend to disperse themselves on wood much better than water-based stains. If you are using a water-based stain, you need to use a wood conditioner. And you only allow that wood conditioner to soak in for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. But you want to put your stain on before the conditioner dries. That's the important part there. Because otherwise the conditioner may seal the wood and then the wood not take stain. So if you're going to use a wood conditioner, do follow the directions. Directions. That's all, folks. Now once our finish is dry from the staining, I'm just going to go over it with a fine sanding stick here to kind of pull down, or not pull down, but sand off all the little fuzzies. There's going to be, from the sanding process and when we put our stain on, which is a liquid, even though it is oil-based, it is still going to raise the grain. And when that happens, the surface becomes a little rough. And we just want to knock that down. We don't want to sand through the stain into the wood, because that would that'd give us an ugly spot. We don't want any of that. But you can just feel it, and you can target whatever areas that have the most grain raised up. Just get it nice and smooth again. Now we'll have to do this process again as we go through and put our clear satin finish on. Just want to make sure that we get everything off the surface there. Taking a paper towel. Don't want any dust in it. I'm not worried about staining the tops of these. The boat's going to sit there, so you're not going to see that. And I didn't stain the bottom, as you can see. But I am going to put a one coat of the clear satin on the bottom. And that will help seal the wood so it doesn't absorb moisture and cause it to bow or bend and carry on, do things that we don't want it to do. So it looks like we're about ready to put our clear finish on. Now you can spray this with a clear finish if you like, or you can use the airbrush to put this on. I'm just going to brush it on because that's what a beginner will have available. And we'll use a large brush for that. So this is Model Expo's MS97, I'm sorry, 4972. My dyslexia is kicking in this morning. Clear satin. So that is what I'm going to use. And because of the storage container that I keep these in, I just put a little tag on top telling me what it is, so I don't have to pull every jar out to see what's on the bottle there. Little organization thing going on. So I'm going to go ahead and put a coat on this, and we'll probably have to come back in and lightly sand it after it dries, but it'll dry pretty quick because this is a water-based acrylic. So we have our finish on. Looks nice. So what we need to do next, I'm going to put these 1/4 inch dots, if I can get them off here. These are just felt dots. Well, these are not 1/4 inch actually. These are 3/8. We're going to put them on our stand here. Let's do a couple of things for us. One will be to raise our stand up off the surface so that you get that false shadow going. Give it a little better look. And then also, it'll take care of any inconsistencies there may be if the wood is not quite level. We don't have to worry about it wobbling. And then it'll also protect the surface of your shelving or anything else. It's going to look good. Now all I got to do is I'm going to affix the boat to our stand with just a little bit of glue there to hold everything into place, so we don't have to worry about knocking it off there. Okay, so that was part 40, the model display stand, and part 41 is mounting the boat on the stand. I didn't show me doing that because it's really just put some glue on it and glue it in place. So there we have the boat. It's attached to the stand, so now we don't have to worry about knocking it off, you know, when we go to do our rigging and all that. So that's kind of important. Coincidentally, everything works. Very nice. I will say though, when you are sanding and fitting the boat to the supports, since they're on these dowels, which is a riser that holds those supports up, and they have to be that way in order to give us enough room for our dagger board there. Because they are so long, when you go to put the mast on, which is going to be next, we're going to be building the mast. If the mast is square to the boat and the boat's not square to the stand, then it's going to be very obvious. So you need to take your time and pay attention to all that alignment and get it right, because if you don't, it will show. Okay, so mast comes next week, so look forward to that. Oh, and we did get our oarlocks and our oarlock plates, plates in place, so that's all done. So do pay attention to the nails. I don't know what kind of nails your kit's going to come with, but if it comes with the very poorly made nails, just get yourself some nails. Order yourself some nails. So, all right, so that's going to wrap this up. Special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you're new to the channel, I hope that I earned your subscription. So until I see you guys in the next one, you guys stay safe.